$60,000 pickups are selling for $9,000. The market crash is here, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. Trucks that were worth more than most salaries just months ago are now sitting unsold, their prices slashed in half overnight. Rental fleets that hoarded pickups at the peak are unloading thousands, turning trusted vehicles into bargains that almost feel like a scam. Headlines said pickups would never lose value, but behind the scenes, panic has taken over, and a hidden trigger is making some trucks worthless while others hold strong. Is this your chance at a once-in-a-lifetime deal, or a warning your wallet can't afford to ignore? Here's where it all began. Back in 2021, the perfect storm hit the pickup market. Global chip shortages slowed assembly lines across Michigan, Texas, and Kentucky, just as demand exploded. Dealers who once had rows of F-150s and Silverados found empty lots. Waitlists for popular models stretched past 6 months. By January 2022, Ford's F-150 order bank ballooned by over 200,000 units. Prices soared. In Texas and Florida, buyers paid $5,000 to $20,000 above sticker just to skip the line. Rental giants like Hertz and Enterprise outbid everyone to lock up thousands of trucks. Small-time flippers joined the frenzy, snapping up anything they could find. Manufacturers, squeezed by chip shortages, focused on high-trim, high-profit models. By late 2022, over 40% of pickups rolling off the line were luxury Denali, limited, high country all, loaded with every option. Average prices jumped to over $62,000, up from the high $40,000 just 2 years earlier. Meanwhile, exports surged, draining U.S. lots even further. Trucks weren't just transportation, they were status symbols, investment plays, even bargaining chips. For a moment, it felt like pickups could only go up. But behind the scenes, the seeds of the crash were already planted. Rental fleets became the new market manipulators. Hertz and Enterprise orders jumped more than 30%, often buying high-demand builds in bulk. Meanwhile, small flippers registered trucks to personal addresses, flipped them out of state, and reaped instant profits. By late 2022, waitlists stretched past 9 months. Manufacturers chased high-margin models. The frenzy made trucks feel untouchable, but bubbles always pop in early 2024. Hertz dumped over 4,000 pickups onto the wholesale market in just 3 months. These weren't old work trucks, they were loaded high-end models. Auction floors from Dallas to Atlanta filled with rows of identical F-150s, Silverados, and Rams, each with 18 to 24 months of rental miles. Trucks that once sparked bidding wars now struggled to attract a single offer. By March, less desirable trims closed under $20,000. A handful of battered work trucks barely cracked $12,000. Internal emails leaked panic. We wiped $10,000 off the sheet price, and it still sat for a week. Enterprise and Avis followed suit, flooding the market. Dealers cherry-picked the best units. The rest sat unsold. Retail lots slashed prices, $8,000, $15,000 overnight. Luxury trims that had commanded $50,000 were now $32,000 or less. Banks weren't patient either. Floor plan lenders, those who front dealers millions for inventory, pulled the plug. Dealers got 48-hour ultimatums to liquidate or risk having their credit frozen. Overnight, profitable trucks became liabilities. Panic spread. Fire sales erupted. Prices cratered, and behind the chaos, hidden incentives made things worse. Manufacturers offered secret back-end, bonuses up to $7,500 per truck, but only if dealers moved inventory fast. Dealers raced to dump trucks, creating a real-time race to the bottom. Buyers were left confused. Sellers were desperate. Rob Winter's story shows the human side. In 2022, he paid $68,000 for a 2022 Ram 2500, believing it would hold value. Now, it's worth under $40,000. He owes $1,100 a month, but his truck can't cover it. Repossession looms. Rob's story isn't unique. Across the country, truck owners are trapped, payments piling up while values plummet. The hidden key to this crash: powertrain risk. Analysis shows EVs, first-gen batteries, and discontinued models fall hardest. Trucks with unresolved recalls or expensive repair histories are punished fast. Even luxury trims aren't safe if the underlying tech is risky. But there's a pattern for survivors. Simple powertrains, base trims, clean titles. Toyotas, Tacomas. Meanwhile, Rams and Fords pile up, often selling for half their original price, but many have ex-fleet history, minor accidents, or open recalls. Knowledge is everything. The rules to survive this crash are clear. Stick to Toyota first, then clean low-tech Fords and Chevys. Avoid high-tech recalled or branded titled trucks unless you're prepared for steep repair bills. Shop in markets with flooded inventory. Texas, Florida, the Midwest. Right now, the buyer holds the cards. The wrong move, and you're left underwater. The right move, and you turn chaos into opportunity. From $60,000 trucks to $9,000 bargains. This crash rewrote the rules. Rental fleet dumping, lender freezes, and secret OEM incentives exposed the fragility of what once felt like a blue-chip investment. Powertrain risk now dictates winners and losers. If you've stayed with me this far, you see what others don't. Subscribe so you're never caught off guard. And download my free guide. Avoid these 17 cars in 2025. Links are right below. A market crash no one predicted is here, and it's brutal. Trucks that once symbolized wealth and reliability are suddenly liabilities. Rental fleets, investors, and even small flippers are dumping thousands, turning high-end pickups into almost unbelievable bargains. You might see a deal and think jackpot, but for thousands of buyers like Rob Winters, it's a nightmare. He bought a 2022 Ram 2500 for $68,000. Today, it's worth less than $40,000. His monthly payment of $1,100 looms like a threat. Over time, hours cut, bills piling up, repossession knocking on the door. Rob trusted the old rule. Trucks hold their value. That rule is dead. Here's how we got here. Back in 2021, the perfect storm hit. Chip shortages choked production. Dealers who once had rows of F-150s and Silverados found empty lots. Waitlists stretched past 6 months. By January 2022, Ford had over 200,000 undelivered F-150s. Prices skyrocketed. In Texas and Florida, buyers paid $5,000 to $20,000 above MSRP. Rental companies like Hertz and Enterprise locked up thousands of trucks. Flippers and small-time investors jumped in, registering trucks to personal addresses and flipping them for instant profits. Manufacturers, squeezed by chip shortages, focused on high-margin trims. By late 2022, 40% of all pickups rolling off the line were luxury trims. Denali, High Country, Limited. Average prices hit $62,000, up from $48,000 just 2 years earlier. Exports surged, and inventory in U.S. lots dried up even more. For a moment, trucks weren't just vehicles, they were status symbols, investments, and bargaining chips. Dealers bragged about selling trucks before they even hit the lot. Then the bubble burst. In early 2024, Hertz dumped over 4,000 pickups at wholesale auctions. These weren't stripped-down work trucks, they were fully loaded, high-end models. Auction floors from Dallas to Atlanta overflowed with F-150s, Silverados, and Rams, each with 18 to 24 months of rental mileage. Trucks that once sparked bidding wars now struggled to get a single offer. By March, less desirable trims sold under $20,000. Some high-mileage work trucks barely hit $12,000. Panic. Emails leaked. We wiped $10,000 off the price, and it still sat for a week. Enterprise and Avis followed. Flooding the market further, banks added fuel to the fire. Floor plan lenders gave dealers 48 hours to liquidate or risk losing credit. Overnight, profitable trucks became liabilities. Dealers slashed prices, fired off desperate deals, and watched their balance sheets crumble. Hidden OEM incentive secret bonuses up to $7,500 per truck made the market a chaotic race to the bottom game. But there's a method to surviving this crash. The key isn't brand or trim. It's powertrain and reliability. EVs, first-gen battery trucks, and discontinued models plummet fastest. Trucks with unresolved recalls or expensive repair histories lose value sharply. Even luxury trims aren't immune if the underlying tech is risky. Survivors share a pattern. Simple powertrains, base trims, clean titles. Toyota Tacomas and Tundras fly off lots. Meanwhile, Rams and Fords pile a Puffin X-Fleet. Minor accidents, or open recalls, but sell for half their original price. Rules to stay ahead: stick to Toyota first, then clean, low-tech Fords and Chevys. Avoid high-tech recalled or branded title trucks, unless you're ready for steep repair bills. Shop in markets with desperate dealers: Texas, Florida, the Midwest. Right now, buyers hold the cards. The wrong move, and you're underwater. The right move, and you turn chaos into opportunity. $60,000 pickups are being dumped for $9,000. The market crash is here, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. Trucks that were worth more than most salaries just months ago are now sitting unsold, their prices slashed in half overnight. Rental fleets that hoarded pickups at the peak are unloading thousands, turning trusted blue-chip vehicles into bargains that almost feel like a scam. Headlines claimed pickups would never lose value. But behind the scenes, panic has taken over, and no one is talking about the hidden trigger making some trucks worthless while others survive. Is this your shot at a once-in-a-lifetime deal? Or is it a warning your wallet can't afford to ignore? Everything you've been told about pickups is about to be flipped upside down. Here's where it all began, where in 2021, a perfect storm hit the pickup market. Computer chip factories around the globe slowed to a crawl, choking off the supply of new trucks just as demand exploded. Assembly lines in Michigan, Texas, and Kentucky sat silent for weeks at a time. Dealers who once had rows of F-150s and Silverados found their lots stripped bare. For buyers, it was like trying to find water in a desert. Wait lists for popular models stretched past 6 months. Ford's order bank for the F-150 ballooned over 200,000 units by January 2022, with some high-volume dealers holding hundreds of undelivered orders. As inventory dried up, prices soared. In Texas and Florida, buyers paid $5,000 to $20,000 above sticker just to skip the line. Rental car giants like Hertz and Enterprise, desperate to restock their fleets, outbid regular customers and locked up thousands of trucks. Small-time investors and flippers joined the frenzy, snapping up whatever they could find, sometimes registering trucks to personal addresses and flipping them out of state for instant profit. Manufacturers squeezed by chip shortages focused on building high-trim, high-profit models. By late 2022, over 40% of all full-size pickups rolling off the line were luxury versions: Denali, Limited, High Country, packed with every option. The average transaction price for a new pickup topped $62,000, up from the high $40,000 just 2 years earlier. Meanwhile, export data showed a 4-fold jump in pickups shipped overseas, especially loaded Fords and Rams, draining even more inventory from U.S. lots. The scarcity wasn't just about empty showrooms, it was about psychology. Trucks became status symbols, investment plays, even bargaining chips. Dealers bragged about selling out before trucks even touched the ground. For a brief moment, it felt like pickups could only go up in value. But beneath the surface, the seeds of the crash were already being sown. Subscribe so they can't ever take you for a ride again. And grab my free guide, Avoid These 17 Cars in 2025. Links right below. Dealerships weren't the only ones gaming the shortage. As soon as trucks became scarce, a new crowd moved in. Speculators and fleet giants chasing fast profits. Rental companies like Hertz and Enterprise, usually known for sedans and minivans, went all-in on pickups. In 2022, their truck orders jumped more than 30%. From pre-pandemic levels, with pickups swelling to nearly 15% of all fleet deliveries. These weren't just work trucks either. The most in-demand builds Denali, High Country, Platinum were snapped up in bulk, packed with sunroofs, leather, and tech. On the streets, small-time flippers and side hustlers joined the gold rush. DMV records in Texas and Florida showed a spike in temporary tags and quick out-of-state transfers on new pickups. Signs of buyers registering trucks to personal addresses, then flipping them for thousands in profit. In some neighborhoods, it seemed like every other driveway had a new F-150 or a Ram with a for sale sign and a price that made last year's sticker look like a joke. The export pipeline went into overdrive. Commerce Department records tracked a 4-fold jump in high-trim pickups shipped out of the country, especially loaded Fords and Rams. Dealers and exporters were moving trucks to the Middle East and Africa, cashing in on demand wherever they could. Wait lists ballooned to absurd lengths. At peak, some Ford and Chevy dealers had more than 300 undelivered orders for high-end trims. Nationwide, the average wait for a luxury pickup stretched past 9 months, with buyers shelling out $10,000 or more just to jump the line. Manufacturers chasing every dollar shifted production almost entirely to high-margin models. By late 2022, over 40% of new pickups rolling off the line were top-tier trims, a near doubling from just 3 years earlier. The average new truck price soared past $62,000, driven not by need, but by a frenzy of hoarding and speculation. For a brief time, the market was ruled by profiteers. Trucks weren't just transportation, they were lottery tickets. But every bubble has a limit. Behind the scenes, the hoarders were stacking up risk, and the trucks themselves were about to become the hottest potato in the business. Hers made headlines in early 2024, when it dumped over 4,000 pickups onto the wholesale market in just 3 months. These weren't aging fleet rejects or stripped-down work trucks. Many were loaded with options: leather sunroofs, full tech packages, trucks that had stickered well above $60,000 just a year or two earlier. Auction floors from Dallas to Atlanta were suddenly packed with rows of nearly identical F-150s, Silverados and Rams, each with 18 to 24 months of rental mileage and a clean title. Manheim's weekly reports tracked the surge. Trucks that would have drawn bidding wars in 2022 were now struggling to attract a single serious offer. The numbers tell the story. In January, the average hammer price for a late-model half-tune pickup at Manheim was $28,000, a drop of nearly 20% from the previous year. By March, high mileage or less desirable trims were closing under $20,000, and a handful of battered work trucks barely cracked $12,000. Internal emails from fleet managers leaked onto industry forums describing the mood as panic. One manager wrote, "We wiped $10,000 off the sheet price on Wednesday, and it still sat for a week." Another, "The buyers just stopped showing up." This wasn't just hers. Enterprise and Avis also accelerated their disposals, pushing thousands more trucks into the system. Monthly auction listings for full-size pickups doubled compared to late 2023, with some sessions featuring blocks of 300 or more identical trucks from a single fleet. Dealers who had begged for inventory 2 years earlier were now cherry-picking only the lowest mileage, best condition units, leaving the rest to languish. The impact on retail pricing was immediate. In places like Houston and Phoenix, used truck lots slashed prices by $8,000 to $15,000 overnight. Trying to keep up with the new auction reality, some high-end trims that had commanded $50,000 on the street in 2023 were now listed for $32,000 or less if anyone was buying at all. Behind the scenes, the pipeline moved fast. Once Hertz or a bank signed off on a bulk dump, trucks hit the auction block within days. Dealers and rebuilders snapped up what they could. But with so much supply, even the best units were a tough sell. The flood of inventory forced a cascade. Retail lots filled up, prices cratered, and the market for late-model pickups turned upside down. For buyers, the numbers on the lot suddenly made no sense. Trucks that had seemed untouchable, Denali's, Platinum's, High Countries, were being offered at prices that looked like mistakes. But for sellers, it was a nightmare. The oversupply was now impossible to ignore, and the panic was just getting started. Auction houses, once buzzing with eager buyers, now echo with disbelief. On a cold Thursday in March, the Manheim floor in Atlanta fell silent as a 2022 Silverado High Country rolled onto the block. 2 years ago, this truck would have sparked a bidding war, dealers waving paddles and shouting over each other. This time, the bidding started at $30,000 and stalled almost instantly. The auctioneer, known for his rapid-fire cadence, paused mid-sentence and glanced at the crowd. A few hands, half raised, then dropped. The hammer fell at $24,500 for a truck that had stickered at nearly $70,000. The moment landed like a punch to the gut. In the aftermath, a group of dealers huddled by the exit, staring at their phones. One muttered, "That can't be right. That's a mistake, right?" But the number was real, and it was just the beginning. The next 3 trucks, another Silverado, a loaded F-150, and a Ram 2500. Each closed at prices that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. Veteran buyers, The ones who used to boast about flipping trucks for five-figure profits just shook their heads and walked away empty-handed. An auction executive, sleeves rolled up and phone glued to his ear, watched the scene unfold. "We've never seen anything like this," he said, voice tight. "You used to be able to count on pickups. Now, nobody wants to catch the falling knife." The shock wasn't just about the numbers. It was about the speed. Just last summer, these same trucks were the hottest commodity on the lot. Now, banks and rental companies were unloading them in bulk, and the market couldn't keep up. Dealers who had begged for inventory during the shortage were now cherry-picking only the lowest mileage, cleanest units, leaving the rest to spiral down in price. One franchise owner from Texas summed it up in a leaked email. "We had 48 hours to liquidate or go negative with the bank. The same trucks that were our profit engines last year have become radioactive." The panic was contagious. In online dealer forums, chat logs lit up with messages like, "Lost my shirt and can't even get floor." Veteran flippers who had made a living off the chaos of the past 2 years were now staring at inventory nobody wanted.